But we think the larger issue is implicit racism, which means that it's something that's unconscious. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. And unfortunately, it exists in almost all of us.
Wait. It exists in almost all of us. Who is free of this racism? Tell me, Kink. Chink? Sink? Kink. Mr. Kink. Tell me, Mr. Kink, who is free of this racism that you're going to tell us about? I get the feeling they're not white people. Just by the tone of your voice there.
So the answer to that isn't to be so embarrassed by it or feel guilty about it that you never talk about it.
I can't be embarrassed for something I don't feel.
The answer is to acknowledge it so that we can all together figure out how to get past it. So if you're not yet convinced...
No, I'm not convinced. Thank you for noticing.
Let me give you a number of different studies here.
I'm not going to get into these studies that he's just going to trot out here as his presupposed evidence. What I really want to focus on here today is the study he's about to speak about, and we'll just kind of rush ahead to that one. That's the point of this whole video, isn't it? The one that shows our subconscious bias. I really want to see that one. Yeah.
We've gone through all that, but I want to give you a little bit more detail about how deep-seated this unfortunately is.
Show me this bias I do not have.
And I think Ross Story did a great job putting together a number of studies under one article. Bobby Azarian wrote this, and he explains at the neural level, the bias manifests itself as an enhanced electrical response in the brain region associated with threat processing and fear. An fMRI study published in the Journal of Cognitive Neuroscience found increased activity in the amygdala when white participants were shown images of black male faces on a computer screen relative to white male faces. So amygdala controls your fear. If it's damaged, sometimes you actually won't have fear. It's a fascinating phenomenon, and obviously your brain is a fascinating entity that has all these different things that you think you're controlling, but if parts of it get damaged, you see that actually it is responsible for the different emotions that you have, the different parts of the brain. So that's what the amygdala is for.
But Mr. Kink, not just threat processing, unfamiliarity as well. But that's an inconvenient detail, right?
And it's activated in this case, and there's a very respected journal of science, and they explain.
I might be giving it away here, but you might notice that they are not using any black participants in the study. They're only testing white people in this one.
Unfortunately, when they see the black faces, fear arises in the white males that were participating in the study more than if they see white faces.
What? Did we read the same study? I mean, I actually read the study. Did you read the study? Because they didn't say fear arose at all. They said there was more activity in the amygdala. That's not the same thing. I mean, I hate to be a nerd about it, but you're just outright wrong.
So that doesn't mean they're all bad people. I keep saying that 1,000 times over. They don't even realize it.
I could rant for, like full minutes about what's actually going on in the amygdala, but stop thinking of it as where your fear comes from. Yes, you could say memories of fear might be stored there, and that it certainly is evaluating things, but it has to work harder to evaluate less familiar things. And you'll find that this is across all races. We already know this. We've seen other studies previously where you'll see similar reactions. The fact is that we're less familiar with people from another race. They look less like us. So it's natural that the process needed to actually evaluate these things would take longer, take more juice, as it were. Light up the neurons.
Okay, we gotta get past it. All right, let me give you another one.
Now, he's about to move on to a different study, and I'd just like to comment a little bit about the one that we just spoke of. For instance, the study was performed on only 20 people. Now, here's the problem with that. Of those 20 people, only 12 managed to sit still in a chair long enough to actually get a good read on. Well, I think it's actually like 14, but they eliminated another 2 for like some resolution errors. You can look at the actual study, I'll link it in the bottom. I actually found a free version online after like 20 minutes of searching, Jesus Christ. Along with extremely small sample size of 12 actually useful studies, we also have the problem that they even acknowledge with their own study that they didn't actually test black subjects' responses. They only had 12 individual subjects who had valid IAT results. Not a very good sample size, huh, Mr. Kink? In their own study, they say, importantly, we expect the correlations in the data of black subjects to mimic the data observed here. That is, the extent to which individual black subjects show overall greater favorability toward their own group on the IAT. We expect greater relative amygdala activity to unfamiliar white compared to black faces. So yes, they suspect that people will have greater amygdala activity for people of a different race. Or that's what they do expect, but they can't test that because they didn't do the full range of tests for any black subjects.
Decades of research has shown that all individuals, regardless of race, tend to direct their attention towards threatening stimuli like snakes, spiders, or angry faces more quickly than they do towards non-threatening images. This is because evolution has shaped our attentional systems to rapidly detect threat as a survival tactic. A 2008 study in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found that in much of the same way, white participants orient their attention toward black faces faster than they do to same-race faces.
My god, Mr. Kink, we've already been through this. People will experience higher amygdala activity with a different race. It's plain and simple. People of a different race are less familiar. These tests keep claiming that it's related to subconscious fear. But if it was really fear, couldn't we trace it all the way to the hypothalamus? You know, the fight or flight mechanism? There's much more to fear than the amygdala.
So, if you see a butterfly, you're not going to react to it nearly as quickly as if you see a snake. You react much quicker.
Speak for yourself. I, sir, hate butterflies.
Now, unfortunately, in our society with the embedded bias, white folks, and these studies happen to be with white participants, but I've also seen this actually with participants in all races.
Citation, please. Is that a good teal deer? I'm working on my impressions. What do you think, guys?
Will react quicker to a blackface because that's how we've been conditioned.
Shit. Is it actually citation needed? God damn it. I haven't watched much of him since the whole Coltrane thing.
And they view it as a threat. That's why somebody like Philando Castile in Falcon Heights gets shot immediately. When he says, okay, you want me to reach for my wallet? I'm going to reach for my wallet. Boom, he gets shot anyway. This is a quicker reaction because fear has been triggered.
Wait. The fear is triggered? But that guy wasn't white. Or is Latino/Asian, or where the fuck he was. Does that too white for you now? Mr. Kink, were you there? Do you know that he was shot immediately? Do you know something I don't? I mean, maybe you do. I get the feeling that you don't know anything about the story, though. We have the say-so of the young lady taping it, but shouldn't you wait for all the facts to come in?
So sometimes right-wingers will say, blacks just want to be the victims. Who would want to be victims like this? Who would want their own face to trigger a hostile and fearful reaction in others? Nobody would want that.
I got it. Remind me later to insert like a picture of some thug life stuff going on. Yeah. Or Boondocks clip or something. So, I'll figure it out later.
I'm almost reluctant to give you these studies because they're so depressing. But we've got to put a light on it, otherwise we'll never fix it. Okay, here's another one. This effect occurred even in those who reported no racist beliefs. Additionally, since the faces were only presented for 30 milliseconds in this study, it is unlikely that the race-related attention bias is a conscious phenomenon.
Wait. This is a different study? You just kind of started out of nowhere. This effect occurred. What effect occurred? Is it like bleeding out the nose? It could be bleeding out the eyes. What the fuck are you talking about? I need more details. Oh.
So that's what I've been trying to tell you guys for a long, long time. And it's not like they asked people, are you racist? And some said yes and some said no. They test whether they have explicit racist feelings and ideas through other means. And once people who tested with no racist beliefs. So it's not like they just told a study, they tested as having no racist beliefs. Even they have unconscious biases that happen so quickly they don't even realize it.
Oh, god damn it. Do you even know what you're talking about anymore? I think I actually read this one a while back. If this is the one I think it is, they actually go on to say that the faces cause less and less distress as they saw more of them. I feel like you keep referring to multiple experiments like they're the same thing. That's not how this works. But in at least one of those experiments, they actually had the testers take the modern racism scale test. So actually they did ask the subjects in at least one of these tests if they thought they were racist or not.
Unfortunately, in today's America, some of those biases wind up getting black people killed because a cop reacts so quickly. Tamir Rice shot and killed in 2 seconds. Fear, fear, fear. We've got to get past that.
I know this might be hard for you to understand, but humans are all about shortcuts. We are some fine human hardware, but when it comes down to it, we couldn't live. We couldn't function if we didn't take shortcuts in every part of our lives. Do you know what would happen if you had to make a conscious decision about everything you did in your life? Your brain would fry in seconds. You know, Mr. Cenk, I think I'm about to blow your mind. I agree with you that our police should be better trained. I even think they should always have body cameras on them. But it's a little bit silly to compare someone recognizing and being afraid of a gun to the deliberation of an unfamiliar face. That's outrageous.
All right, another study. At the behavioral level, the racial bias is revealed by the fact that non-black participants are faster at categorizing negative words when they follow pictures of black faces relative to white faces. This type of experiment is known as the implicit association test, and it has been used to demonstrate implicit racial biases so many times that the existence of the general effect is not even disputed among psychologists. These results suggest an unconscious mental association between African Americans and negative things or concepts in the brains of whites.
If you paid attention to the previous one, the experiment even cites the IAT. But here's a problem. This idea that no one questions the validity of the IAT is silly, because a lot of people do. A lot of psychologists actually argue that's more about, oh, what's this? Familiarity. You should be familiar with this concept, right, Mr. Cenk? I'll just quote a few lines from some periodicals here. Psst, he means Wikipedia. IAT has been interpreted as assessing familiarity, perceptual salience, asymmetries, or mere cultural knowledge, irrespective of personal endorsement of that knowledge. Let me break that down for you. Give you a little English there, son. Essentially, it's saying, that shit is unfamiliar to me, so of course I will associate it negatively. In fact, you might want to look at some of the more extensive research done by Neil Dawson and Hal Arx. There are a couple doctors who test some of the effects of this bias in practicality. One of them involved doctors and prescribing drugs to people of different colors. They found an interesting fact that doctors who had the most biased effect according to the IAT actually subscribed things more equally. Interesting. What's more, they point out there's a consistency issue with the IAT, that people who take the test multiple times often score very differently. Again, pointing to a problem with familiarity. Lots of people disagree with it, psychologists even.
So, these studies happen to be with white participants.
Again, you just pointed out, they did it with only white people. That's not a very well controlled experiment. Do you know anything about the scientific method? You need a control, and that was not a very good control.
But for example, not having anything to do with race, but it going to the same concept.
Whoa, what the fuck are you talking about? Did you just say not having anything to do with race? Wasn't the whole point of this?
Remember the famous study, and this was just a teacher who did it informally, but it was so powerful.
Are you shitting me?
Back in Kansas, a long time ago, she had told the blue-eyed students and the brown-eyed students in her class that they were different.
By George, she might be right. They are different. Give that woman a PhD.
And she told, at one time, the brown-eyed students that they were superior and that the blue-eyed students were inferior.
Wait a second. This sounds awfully familiar.
Not only did the brown-eyed students immediately feel that they in fact were superior, their test scores went up. But what was amazing is that the blue-eyed students felt that they were inferior and their test scores went down. And they started to react to each other in a way that the teacher had taught them, even though it was such a brief thing that she did. She, by the way, then later flipped it and it worked again. Then the brown students' test scores, the blue-eyed students felt superior and their test scores went up. Brown-eyed students had their test scores go down. So we all internalize these biases that we are taught.
Gee golly, I'd like to take your word for it, Mr. Cenk, but I just can't. That's why I like studies. I can review their results, their methodology, the way they set up the experiment. That's why experiments are so nicely documented, for me to criticize, for you to criticize. I don't think I'll be taking her word for it.
But we've got to, one, stop teaching those biases, two, recognize it, so three, that we can combat it and finally be done with it so that we're all equal.
I'm a bit confused. Isn't that kind of defeating the point of the stuff you just talked about? Well, I don't know. I mean, based on what you just told me, that shit was easy to reverse. I mean, wouldn't it just be simple to go around telling all the white people that they were useless and that they were inferior to black people and that they didn't have a right to be part of the conversation? Oh. Yeah, I see what you did there. Wait. I'm actually kind of curious now. When she told him it was all bollocks, did their grades return to normal? Mr. Cenk, that's not a very nice thing to do. I hate cliffhangers.
Okay, JR's in the studio, so I'll ask him here. How preposterous is it, JR, when they say that you, like they make it seem like you want these biases? Like that somehow it gives you an advantage?
Well, there's always a pattern. I always thought with stuff like this, even with gay rights.
Yes, gay rights are just like racial bias.
So they're saying, oh, we choose it. So why would someone choose to be in the position that now you're in, where there's so much hate and even murder towards them? So someone who isn't in the position would say, yeah, I just feel like doing it. Or if there's actually no violence towards someone, they'd put it out there and just say, I'm getting all this violence. How many black folks do you know, after they've said, I've been a victim of this many things, police brutality, just general public in general coming after me, get something for it?
Hey, getting shot is like street cred, bro. I've seen Keanu. I know what's up.
They're millionaires, someone pays them.
Yeah, what do they get
Soros,
for it?
maybe?
Sometimes they get shot for it.
I don't understand this. So there's no basis behind it, but it's another empty argument that doesn't get challenged.
I think that some right-wingers like being victims. Maybe, now I'm going to get into wild speculation here, but maybe it comes from Christianity, where the hero is a victim, that is, beaten, tortured, and crucified.
Exactly. Whereas in Islam, the hero is a pedophile. Okay, that was a low blow. The hero is also a rapist and a murderer.
And so they view victimology like, they project it, but in reality, they want to be the victims. That's why they turn around and say things like, there's a war on Christmas! Oh my God, we are the aggrieved white people of America and the aggrieved Christians of America.
Interesting. So, if my racial group committed a disproportionate amount of crime, and I want to seem like the victim, I may go around saying things like, Black Lives Matter, no one else cares about Black lives, blah blah. Did you see what I did there? Yeah, you saw what I did there.
And so, since they think that they enjoy victimhood, or at least pretending to be victims when they're not real victims, because if you're a real victim, it's not enjoyable.
I agree. Being a real victim would not be enjoyable. So why do you guys fight for victimhood? Well, Mr. Cenk, I'm done with you. I hope we can play again sometime. This was fun. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. That's probably it for now. But I'll be seeing you around. Hey everyone. If you like that show, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want me to make more content, hit the subscribe button. That way I know I'm just not, singing to an empty theater, that kind of thing. Goodbye.